Hi class, welcome to Chapter 11 in our elementary statistics class. We're going to be talking about two types of hypothesis tests. One is called the goodness of fit test and the other is involving contingency tables. It's also called a test of independence. Way back in Chapter 7 we started talking about the ideas about hypothesis testing. We're talking about confidence intervals, estimating a parameter for a single population. And then in Chapter 8, that was our first experience working on hypothesis testing using a null and alternative hypothesis. And in Chapter 10, we talked about correlation and regression using a hypothesis test for that as well. Remember, Chapter 9 will come after Chapter 11. It's similar to Chapter 8, but it involves two samples. I needed the idea of hypothesis testing to sink in a little bit before we went on to Chapter 9. So what's interesting about Chapter 11 is that we will be focusing on analyzing categorical or qualitative data, and we separate them into different categories. There are two kinds of tests here. One type of test is called the goodness of fit test, and the null hypothesis for that test is that the observed counts agree with some claimed distribution. The second type of test in section 11-3 is about contingency tables, and it's called a test of independence. For both of these tests we are going to use the chi-square distribution. We used it before in Chapter 8. It's called chi like kite, not like chai-tea. And what's interesting about chi-square is it's not symmetric. It's generally skewed. And the table, if you might remember, uses the degrees of freedom to identify the test statistic. As the degrees of freedom increase, the distribution becomes more symmetric, but not completely symmetric.